Hello. Hi, everyone. Chinny's here already. Hi, guys. Hello.
Hi. Hey,
Hey,
Joycey.
Chinny.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Well, I guess we're all alive and well. We are trying. We're trying.
We're trying.
Good to see you.
I know. Just
Can you hear me?
Oh, no. So I have to, can you hear me?
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. There's a bit of a delay. My
Yeah.
internet is being kind of, it's being questionable sometimes, but hopefully we can get this thing going. We can make it happen. And we'll have a little bit of fun.
We're going to have fun. We are going to have fun. It's so good to have you on here. I'm
And
so
thank
excited.
you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
And hi to everybody
and I
who's
know a lot of...
joined. Hi, everyone. Let me let you.
Hi, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you guys tell us where you're joining from? I always think that's cool. Let's find out where you're joining from.
I guess we should start. So I am in Vegas. I am currently riding out the COVID situation. We just opened our lockdown, came out of our lockdown in Vegas today. So, yesterday, excuse me. Today's Tuesday. We came out of lockdown yesterday. It's a very interesting situation. We'll see how it goes. So,
yeah.
Ooh, Morocco. Hi, Faintly Normal. Morocco.
Hey, Chicago. Oh, wow. Wow, Abuja. Hi, Yasala. Okay. Lagos. Okay, so I'm in Lagos. And like Chinny said, we just came out of lockdown, but we're still taking it easy. I went to the office yesterday just to check on it. And we're not going to open fully yet, but we are taking it easy, and we're monitoring. We're monitoring everything. So
I fully understand.
So let's get right into it, because Instagram.
Let's do it.
Instagram cuts us off in like an hour, so I want to make sure we finish before then so we can save.
Yeah.
But thank you for all. New York, stand up. I thank you to all of the people who are joining in. I'm so excited today for two reasons. I get to host the lovely Dr. Chinny that I know many of you guys probably know about, definitely, or have seen her work, heard of her, but today you'll hear more. And also, it's my first live with Soar with Joycey, and so I'm really excited just to share with you guys about everything, structure, operations, processes, procedures. So today's going to be a very, very good day. I want to start with a question that I'm sure is on a lot of us minds. A lot of people who look at Chinny, whether you see her Instagram page, her work, or you hear her speak, you're like, how does this woman not only juggle everything, but she is so excellent, and also she slays. Like, one moment she's putting a post up about work and HR and like how to be excellent, how to be a good speaker, and the next moment she has like an amazing fashion video on. So Chinny, can you please tell us all, how do you manage to do it all at the same time?
It's so hilarious, because I think everybody's probably aware that what you see on social media is not reflective of what happens every day. Please tell me if I'm echoing. I think somebody wrote that I was echoing, and I'm not sure how I can minimize that, but I try to reduce my volume as much as possible. So for me, a lot of the time it's really about thinking intelligently about where I investing my time, right? So what is the return of investment? What's the ROI on your time? And some of those ROIs might be a return on how do I say it? A return on like emotional investments, right? So you get some sort of emotional benefit from what it is you're doing. Some of that might be a financial return. So what is the financial ROI? But some of it might be a time ROI that you're either making the process shorter, or you're making it, you're creating more time for yourself in the future. So that's typically how I think about things. And it's kind of the same thing with social media. 95% of the time, I am working or otherwise with the children or with my husband, or just doing something that probably gives me a lot more benefits than posting on Instagram. So I'm not saying Instagram is bad. I like Instagram. It gives me, I figure it gives me an emotional benefit, because it's kind of just like, oh, I can relax. I'm not worried about patients dying. It's just kind of like a fun thing to do. So I typically structure things in that way, and I'm quite, I've decided that, you know, I have fun posting. I have fun creating things. You guys can usually see that, I think I've shown people before, I don't post what you see posted like yesterday is not what I was wearing yesterday. I took that picture probably about 2 months ago. And then I just kind of do my regular everyday thing, and you guys will see like my posting schedule for the next 6 weeks or so, what's coming up. And for me, it's more a matter. Oh, can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah. For me, it's more a matter of structuring how I post that way. And you'll also notice I don't really do stories, because it's like a time, it consumes a lot of time for me. So it's just, I think through how I structure my time.
So good. So already you mentioned structure. Like I didn't even have to introduce it. You know, you structure your time. A lot of times you're not actively creating your post right then and there. You would have done it in advance, right? And so that's really important. You also plan your outfits in advance? Do you?
Not my day-to-day outfits, but the outfits that I post, I do plan those in advance, because I take, you know, I have certain days. I'll maybe take one day a month, or one day every 6 weeks, and just take all the pictures. So I have to plan that in advance. But on a day-to-day basis, it's kind of like what I feel like wearing whenever I wake up. If I feel like wearing a ball gown, I'll wear a ball gown. But most of the time, it's just chill clothes.
Awesome. So good, so good. I saw a post today where someone was like, you know, you can save time by planning your outfits the day before. And I'm like, well, for me, that doesn't really work, because I go on my mood, you know, when I wake up. But I guess if someone takes like an hour planning, then it might work for them. So, you know, part of the reason why I really wanted to get you on here was because you ooze operational excellence. Like you're an operations guru. There's not many people who can boast of opening multiple hospitals in different countries. You're also on different boards. I feel like you're always catching a flight somewhere. You have 2 toddlers, you know, just like me, 2 girls. You know, I have 2 boys, you have 2 girls, and you're scaling. You're always planning your next, always scaling, always thinking of the next level. I would like to know, what would you say attributes to your entrepreneurial excellence? Like what are the core things that causes you to be able to do all these things?
Sure. So I'm just adjusting this a little bit to make it easier. So for me, it's being very, I wouldn't even say I'm entrepreneurially excellent or anything like that, but I do think that I take a very systematic view to most of the things I do. Very unemotional. Sometimes my husband calls me like a robot, but unemotional, analytic, just like, how do I get this thing done? And in terms of creating a large business or scalable business, I think for what's been very beneficial is, first and foremost, being very deliberate about what your goal is, right? So sometimes people say that they want to do X, but everything that they have structured their system to do is actually doing Y. So I always take the time to pause out and really think through, what is the goal that I want to accomplish? And I'll say it again, but I'm sure everybody has heard it a million times. It needs to be time bound. It needs to have like numbers to it. What is the actual goal? If a great example is just saying losing weight. If you want to lose weight, don't just say you want to lose weight. I want to lose 20 pounds by the end of I don't know, June.
Yeah.
And
Right.
you work back from there. What do you actually need to do in order to lose 20 pounds? Well, you know your inputs and you know your outputs. You know that a certain number of hours of exercise and eating a certain number of calories will lead you to having, closer, more shots on goal toward weight loss. So in terms of your business, I would say people have to structure it the same ways. But it's obviously it's not as easy as it's not as easy as knowing the inputs of losing weight. There's so many moving parts. So for every single moving part, every single aspect of your business, it's being intentional about, first of all, what the goal is. Second of all, what are those inputs or those metrics toward achieving those goals? And then third of all, how do you make sure that you're able to replicate those things? And on the third aspect, I found out what is extremely helpful. First, having the right team, recruiting the right people. Second, training them appropriately. But third, and most importantly, within oversight and within that training, having the right standard operating procedures, having those SOPs that you know are tried and tested and you are able to replicate, and you do it again and you do it again and you do it again and you make sure everybody is doing it again. And when I say checklist, I feel as though sometimes people assume that other individuals are able to understand what they are doing with their work, but you can't assume that. You have to just make it as blatantly clear as possible, and in a manner where you can review it. So if it's, I'll use examples that I'm used to. If it's making sure that the pharmacy has stock of certain medicines, you literally say, Monday, this is how you do, this is what you do. Have you checked X drug, Y drug, C drug? Have you checked the register for this? And you create a checklist that they have to use in order for you to know what's happening and for them to be able to replicate that process. So that whether or not that person is there, whether they decide that they want to go home to their home state tomorrow, you still have that process in place and you can slot somebody else in to do the same exact thing.
Preach. You are a woman after my own heart. We didn't plan this, guys. Chinny just spoke about standard operating procedures, which is like what I'm always preaching about. But before I even get there, what I heard you say, Chinny, is a lot of things, and I hope you guys are taking notes. If anyone has any questions, please use the question icon at the very bottom, and I'll get to question and answer later. But what I heard Chinny say was, first of all, you have to have SMART goals. SMART meaning specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. So you can't just say you want to lose 20 pounds and you don't have a plan for it. By when? Like, what's the time frame? Is it realistic? Like, are you already very, very slim and 20 pounds would be very hard to lose? That's something that she mentioned. Then you also spoke about, working backwards, like planning towards your goal. So creating steps that would help you to achieve that goal. And I love how you spoke about it, not just in business, but also at home. What I think a lot of people, so I meet a lot of entrepreneurs who are like, oh yeah, teach me this SOP, teach me how to structure. But then they don't want to put in the initial work, which the initial work is you have to actually sit down and think about what do you want to achieve. So, Chinny and I, we both have nannies. I mean, we have children, that are both young, and we want our nannies to handle the children in a certain way. Well, nobody is going to create that, no one's going to think through what we want. So you need to sit down and create that procedure. And then once you've done it, it's an investment that keeps paying over and over and over again. And if that staff leaves your company, you literally can replace them and have a document, right? That's your SOP.
Let me tell you guys a story about exactly just that. And I think a lot of people, especially if you have nannies or if you live in Nigeria, you'll probably be able to relate. So when my first daughter was like, I don't even know if she was up to 5 months. She was less than 5 months old. And again, you guys tell me if you can hear me. Tell me if you're echoing. Tell me if there are any issues. So the nannies at the time decided to go on an excursion with her without, notifying my husband or I. So literally, I was on my way to some remote hospital somewhere, and I'm watching the home camera, oversight, and my child is just nowhere to be seen. And I'm asking around, and I'm like, wait, where is she? And they're like, oh, she's in the house. And I'm like, no, she's not in the house. No, she is not in the house. Long
Wow.
story short, had to get rid of those staff members because, like, you know, you can't just take my child somewhere. And new people hopped in. If I had had the templates that Joycey has with checklists and training your home staff, I would have been in a much better position, because I think a lot of people don't really realize that you do have to train your staff at home and you do have to have standards. So I was looking through the templates that you have available for different things around the house, and I was just like, oh my goodness, if I had known about this, first of all, I probably wouldn't have had to spend the time and the effort to make my own. But it's so useful, and I wish more people knew about these sorts of I would say home structuring materials that you have available.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so key. I mean, I did it similar to you out of a pain point. You know, mine was just that I knew that I was, you know, I opened the business right before I had my son, and I knew that I would need to have some kind of structure in place for the home to run and the business, right? And so I worked so hard to create these SOPs, and honestly, it was like the best decision I could ever make. And it works for the home and the business, just like you said, you know? So I want to move on to some business questions, right? Chinny, can you just introduce yourself to us? Like, what are you doing now? You wear so many hats. Like, what are you doing? And tell us about, you know.
Yeah, sure. So, what would I even say my main gig is? My main role is as the Chief Executive Officer of WellSpring Health. It is a new, but it's been in the works for a number of years by a lot of both international and domestic backers and investors looking to create a high-quality, low-cost healthcare system across sub-Saharan Africa, starting with Nigeria. However, I also do a lot of research. So I'm also the Director of Research at the Center for the Study of the Economies of Africa, which is a think tank founded by Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. I also do a lot of work on the area of, I would say, digital data science for healthcare. So a lot of assessments, evaluations, pharmacovigilance type of things, and thinking through how you can, I would say, look at the future of healthcare, right? So not just how is healthcare today, but more at an international level. A lot of companies in the U.S. are thinking through thinking through artificial intelligence. How do we actually ensure that that information from big data is being extracted appropriately and applied in the right manner? And then what else do I do? I'm doing a lot of work for COVID right now because, of course, if you work in healthcare, you likely are doing quite a bit of work in COVID. So we are looking at a number of different things to help at both the states and the national level in terms of COVID response. So I'll say that those are my main things right now. I'm kind of passionate, I'm very passionate about healthcare. I really, really do believe that health is wealth, and in order to be able to develop, countries do need good and proper healthcare. So that's what I do.
Right.
Aside from from Slay on IG, you guys also see that.
Many, many, many hats. They're saying there's an echo, but guys, can you hear?
Maybe should I sign out and sign back in, because I don't even see anybody's comments.
Yeah. Oh, you can't see comments?
I can't see anything.
Okay, maybe
technology done it again.
Oh, you can't see all the comments. Okay. So
let me hop out and hop back in quickly, if that might help.
People are saying they can hear. Can you guys hear? Can we keep going? Okay, good.
All right.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much, Tiloni. Thank you. Okay, so many, many, many hats, right? How do you go about divvying up your time to, say, handle the research for Center of Economic Studies? How do you decide today you're working on WellSpring fully? How do you handle, all your tasks?
I mean, I guess it's in many ways it's the same way everybody handles the different things that they have to do. So on one side, it's a matter of urgency. If something happens immediately and needs to be done now, then I prioritize that thing and I do it. But I actually try to stick to a fairly regular schedule. I like routine. There are two things I like. what is this word? I like when you are I like routine, one,
Yeah,
but I also
routine.
like discipline. I love discipline, and I think that discipline is so important to getting anything done. So I was an athlete for a number of years when I was in high school and when I was in college, and so that kind of put a baseline of me learning how to do things that feel horrible and that suck and that you don't want to do, but you know that are good for you in the long term. So still to today, every day I wake up and even if I don't necessarily feel like doing it, I exercise. I get something done. I'm currently working on my squats and like my stairs and type of things. So that's my new thing right now. My thighs are burning.
Woo!
So one is exercise because I think it also makes me feel good and gets me ready for the day. Two is simply ensuring that I am prioritizing those things that would make the biggest difference for me, not necessarily today, but in the long run, right? So that has changed a little bit with the COVID situation, and I think definitely one thing that everybody should do, but certainly people who are owners or small businesses or SMEs, like small scale entrepreneurs, is take an unemotional assessment of what is going on. What is your situation? What is your business's financial situation? What is your business's
Yeah.
microeconomic situation? What is happening? And when I say that, I definitely mean around, is it a viable business first and foremost? Because we shouldn't, like, just because you feel good about it, just because you're like, oh my God, I've put like 7 years into this business, it's all I know, it's everything I do, fantastic, I feel you, I really understand your pain, but at the end of the day, if it is not going to be viable in the next however long, you're just putting more sunk costs in. So first is to really understand that if anybody living in Africa and a lot of people abroad in the U.S. or so, our middle income population was supposedly this. So if you have like any type of semi-luxury or semi business that's not dirt cheap, basically, if you're not selling gari for 100 naira, if people would have to pay a bit of a premium for your business, understand that the middle income population was supposed to be this, and after this crisis, it's going to be this. On top of that, the types of remittances or the number and amount of remittances that we have from abroad to the continent has also shrunk. So people's expendable income has just diminished overnight. And people who would otherwise have bought into your business are unlikely to anytime in the next probably 18 months to 2 years. So again, ask yourself, do I have a viable business given this change in demographics and given this change in economic status? And if you do, fantastic. Keep going on. Maybe draw down a number of lines of credit. Maybe make sure that your cash constraints are put in place as much as possible. But if you don't, and I made a post about this yesterday, it's time to be serious about pivoting. This wasn't my friend. This wasn't even a question you asked me. You asked me about structure.
No,
and I was talking about discipline, and then I came over to
this
the
is good.
macroeconomic situation.
It's really, really good because I believe that as much as we talk about structure and putting things in place, you also need to be structured enough to understand, how to move your business in certain times, how to change your business. So for example, like Adariki, my main baby, right? We're structured in a way where we have multiple streams of income. So we understand right now that the spa services, the touch aspects, is strange. Like right now, no one is coming in for a massage. Like we're not open, but we understand that we have other aspects of the business, our products that in this period of time, it's recession proof. So how can we gain more distributors? How can we change our messaging? How can we make it an essential, versus a non-essential in people's mindset? So, I think what you're saying is very important. And on the point of pivoting, oh my goodness, today Coca-Cola announced that they're making hand sanitizers. I mean, like, if Coca-Cola is going to start making sanitizers, I mean, everybody should be thinking about your competencies, what you can do, and how you can pivot using what you have. I mean, this might seem off topic, but so many fashion brands are making masks now. And, it's not really just about jumping on the bandwagon, but about like actually figuring out where you can add value, because times have changed. Times have really, really changed. So I really want to ask you, what do you feel like the mantra, do more with less effort? What does that mean to you? And how do you apply that in your life?
Ooh, do more with less. That's a great, I would say, ideology. So for me, it's really, again, time, but also resources. So all of the work I've done, if anybody has no idea, I did my doctorate at the Harvard Business School, and that PhD was focused on healthcare resources in developing countries, and it was really at its core, how do hospitals and clinics in Africa, in India, in parts of Latin America, how do they do as much as possible with as few resources as possible?
Wow.
So I've always been thinking through, without enough finances, without enough human capital, without enough of much, how do you ensure that the system that you're putting together is doing as much as possible, is doing more? I try to ensure that I have, like I mentioned before, a very high return of investment on my time, and that is really how I structure my day. So I'm actually going back to the previous question through my answer to this question. I do the most important things first in the morning. For me, that's when my mind works best. That's when I'm most alert. My husband, he's a night person, so once it's like 9 p.m., then he's getting going, and I'm just like, I can't do this, I have to go to sleep. So for me, I make sure that those things that are the best investments happen first. Right now, a lot of that means that I'm going back to what I would call basics, right? So yes, I know that in the afternoon or like in the late morning, I have to give my time to my real work, my typical every day-to-day work that will always happen. But how am I improving myself in the long run and making myself and my businesses more competitive? That might mean taking some time out and relearning coding, relearning R, relearning SQL and Python and different things that are the future of healthcare. That might also mean that I'm making a few phone calls to people who are not simply at the front lines of what healthcare is now, but what it is in the future. It means a bunch of different things, but it's definitely always centered on what is the best return of investment in the future of my time now.
So ROI is a very, very important metric.
Yes.
It can save you a lot of time. It's good for time management, for priorities. ROI. So we're talking structure, right? And we know that you're excellent. You're an operations guru. But what are some of the mistakes that you say you would have made, if any, during your career?
Mistakes. I'm only laughing because it's so relevant right now. So I think it's really important to be introspective and to be very honest with yourself around your weaknesses. Analytically, in terms of the numbers, nobody, like I will say, it's nobody can beat me in terms of the numbers. I will get those numbers exact. But the softer skills, interpersonal skills, being able to read people. For me, I have a very hard time reading people, and I think that it's also a cultural thing, right? So you're similar to me. You've gone from the U.S.'s culture to Nigeria's culture, and sometimes it's very difficult to fully understand the nuances of what's taking place. So, Africa and Nigeria, this is a cutthroat country. And if you are not able to read people's character early on, you are going to be in trouble. One of my mistakes has definitely been not reading people properly. I wish you had a template. If you have a template for how to read people and how to know who the a-holes are and the people who will screw you up, please sell it to me right now because I need it.
Personality test.
But these are things that they can't teach you in school, and I wish they could. How do you know that, for example, if you are going to enter into a partnership with anybody, a partnership is kind of like a marriage. And my husband was fully vetted, just everything before I married him, and you have to do the same with a partner. You should know them for a significant amount of time. You should know that you guys share the same values, you have the same morals, you have essentially the same goalpost in mind. And if you don't, it's not going to work. If you have somebody who will kill to make money, and you're kind of like, oh, I want everybody to, I'm happy to do good and do well. Those things
They'll
they
bump
do not
heads.
work together.
Yeah.
So I think it's really being very blunt with yourself about, am I reading this person's character right? And unfortunately, it's not the case that you can be like, okay, if somebody does something funny 5 times, that means I
Right.
can stop working with them, but they've only done it 4 times. Like, there's no cut and dry way of figuring this type of thing out. So I would definitely have, maybe it's something that should have happened when I was like really, really young, but learned how to read people better. I'm getting better at it right now. But it's still something I definitely struggle with, understanding individuals. Give me a template for that.
Man, I wish. I may not be. I don't trust easily. So I don't know if you're one of the people that trust, more easy. But I definitely feel you on that. It's hard though. It's hard to really figure out who someone is. I'm sure that even you'll realize that in marriage we change. So it's hard. Someone said on the chat that it's discernment plus wisdom will reveal people's motives to you in business partnerships. So,
and like gut feelings, right? So this is a lesson for anybody out there. First and foremost, if you may not like to gossip. I don't really like gossip. I don't like talking about people. But if people are telling you, multiple people are telling you the same thing about somebody, you better listen. Like, you better at least perk up and begin to listen, like Genti, and understand what's happening. Secondly, if something in your stomach, in your brain, whatever it is telling you like this doesn't quite sit right, you should act on it. And people are like, oh, that's women's intuition. I don't think it's just women's intuition. I think it's just have a feeling about something and it's not quite right. So you're already intuitively stepping back. And you should act on it or find out more information to figure out, should I step all the way back because this is weird. So I mean, acting faster on those sorts of quirky, questionable behaviors, definitely.
Right. It's so good. I think our gut instinct is like a gift. And most of the time it doesn't fail us, right? But maybe sometimes in excitement, we move on with things even when we see some indications that things could be off, whether it be a business decision or partnership or whatever it is. So thank you so much for your honesty. I'm sure that really helps someone out there.
Hello?
A lot of entrepreneurs are always talking about how I want to scale, I want to grow, I want to open in multiple locations. Do you believe that someone needs to dominate, like they need to have their structure down packed in the country that they're in first before they think about scaling?
And tell me if you can still hear me, because I think the connection may be a bit poor. But I certainly don't believe that you have to have everything 100%, but you better have it at least 70%, because what I see a lot of the time is people who are trying to scale before their business is actually ready to scale. And there are a number of indicators that will tell you if your business is ready to scale. And it's also country specific, right? Because in some areas, in some geographies, like Africa, like India, there are actually diseconomies of scale. There are many instances in which more locations results in lower overall revenue, lower EBITDA, and all of that stuff. And part of the reason why is because, the oversight issues. Maybe in some of your locations, you may not be able to have cameras, you're not as well trained. Essentially, it boils down to, are you able to ensure that you're replicating the same exact quality, the same exact systems, the same exact processes, and the same exact oversights in every location that you may have. I know a number of businesses that have done that have approached scaling and scaling fast quite well. So Ibukun Enyo. So he's been able to scale fantastically well. I was able to tour their offices a few times, and he showed me like a number of the different indicators on all the TVs of how they really make a number of data-driven decisions. And I think that would have to be key. Data-driven, again, analytical. Do you have all of the measures, all the KPIs that you actually need And not just that you think that you have them, do you actually have them to make the right decisions about certain things? And sometimes those are tough decisions. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, I opened this location, I thought it was good, it's actually horrible. Or, you know what, I hired this person, I thought she or he was good, they're a close friend, I like them, but they're actually horrible for the job. Or, you know what, I thought that, I don't know, writing this article was a good idea, I spent the past 1 week on it, but it's actually crap and I need to scrap it and do it over again. One of the biggest mistakes is people feel that since they've invested so much time or energy into something that they must keep going forward with it. And that's kind of like the sunk cost fallacy. You have to be analytical, unemotional, with all the right data in how you approach your problems.
So good, like so good. I you know, I also hear you saying, like, if you're going to fail, like, you fail fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
You learn. If you're going to fail on something, fail quickly, move on. And failure is probably one of the greatest teachers. You know, a lot of people ask me, so in the past 4.5 years, my company, Ariki, has had the opportunity to develop 6 spas. And we're also working on, you know, a new one and working on some out of the country.
Yay.
Now, what people may not know is that literally we've had to close down locations as well. So our very first location, we got this building, and we thought we could get to work on turning it into a spa. But what we quickly found out was that the best spa experiences are one in which you take an open space and you turn it into your spa, right? When you already have the building made, it's really difficult, because if I'm having a nail studio and a hair salon and a spa, if Chinny's trying to get a massage, she's going to hear noise. It just didn't make sense. So we closed that location down. And you know what? I'm not going to say it was easy. It wasn't easy. But the thing is, you have to realize that I had to realize that business, that location wasn't going to pay me. You know, it wasn't going to reach its potential. Mm-hmm. And so we began to change our business model, right? And that was in year 2. Okay. So people have to also realize that part of this structure thing is having data, like knowing your numbers. So, you know, when you think of creating an SOP, you link it to a KPI. And when you have a KPI, the KPI needs to be measurable. And KPI means key performance indicator. It needs to be measurable. So you can actually see how your business is performing, right? And you can make those decisions. And I also just want to add to your point that some companies, their business model is actually to scale from the start. So I want to open 10 coffee shops in year 1. So it's not the model for everyone, but you know, maybe you're cash backed, you've got an investment, and your game is to roll out, your plan is to roll out. I mean, kudos to you, but everyone has to know their business and not fall into this whole, like, me too. Oh, because this person is doing it, I'm going to do it too, you know? And I think it's a good time to ask you, Chinny, for all the entrepreneurs listening right now, you know, what would you advise them to be doing during these times? I mean, the world, we're on a global pause. You know, although our other country, the United States, is slowly easing in some states. New York is still, you know, in a pretty bad state. But wherever you are, like, if you're a business owner, what would you be advising for business owners to be doing during this time?
I like to be, I'm a perpetual optimist. I'm very optimistic. I'm very happy-go-lucky. I see the glass is half full, but not when it comes to my money. I'm very conservative. I take a very pessimistic view of markets, and I always assume a worst case scenario. So this is part of what I was beginning to say before. First and foremost, take an unbiased, unemotional, very straightforward, by the numbers, futures projection of your business. Does it make sense? What are all your assumptions? What are the assumptions, not simply in terms of, okay, I'll get this many clients in this number of time, but is it even possible for those clients to pay? Because again, this isn't a recession. We're heading into a global depression. And that means that across the world, across all countries, people will not be able to pay because they'll likely be out of a job. Thankfully, for example, in the US, those likely return. once the lockdown is eased, but also understand that the behaviors that people had just 1-2 months ago are not the behaviors that they're going to have months into the future. So when we all used to jump up and go out and have, like, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner in restaurants. In the past, we would all congregate en masse at like concerts and things like that. That's unlikely to happen again for another 18 to 24 months. So, like I mentioned before, take an unbiased view. If you have to, if small business owners have to shut everything down and just make an assumption that they're going to do something else for the next 18 months, then by all means do that. Another thing to do, I would say, since we're talking U.S. and Africa, is take a look at how things are playing out in parts of Asia. So China, very, I would say, luckily, things are playing out. They're not. It's not synchronized, right? It's happening earlier in some countries than others. So take a look at how consumer behavior has changed in those countries and see how and if you need to pivot. My biggest, I guess my 3 biggest points for small business owners would be, yes, I already said take an unbiased view of your business and if it's still viable, if it will still be viable months into the future. But more importantly, if it is viable, one, draw down on all of your credits. Things. You should have done that before, but you know, if you still can, find a way to get cash in the door. To conserve as much cash as possible because you don't know how long this is going to go on for. And then 3, communicate with your stakeholders, right? Communicate with whether it's your investors, communicate with your family members, communicate with your friends, communicate with your clients and your customers about what is going on, what you expect to happen, and why you're taking certain decisions. So those are the 3 suggestions if you believe that your business is still viable. If you, for any reason, you don't believe that the assumptions that you had 2 months ago will still hold after everything is still is opened up again, you need to start hedging right now. And by hedging, like I said before, I mean pivoting. Start finding other things to do. Start finding other businesses. You might even want to go back into the corporate world. You might want to start interviewing right jobs. That's on goals. Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, Plan D. And, you know, maybe if your lead investors weren't going to back you anymore, you should already be looking for other investors. Maybe if your customers are no longer there, then start pivoting and looking for customers elsewhere. Maybe even if the investors aren't there, if the customers aren't there, if their assumptions don't hold, at the very least, you should have some some job offer in the corporate world in your back pocket that you can always fall back on. I would really strongly make those suggestions just to have multiple plans and multiple shots so that you and your family are always okay.
I love it. I love it. You know, last week when I was really thinking about SMEs, and I was seeing a lot of people in the social media space almost like shaming people who were pivoting. You know, you'll see some business owners who in this time they realize that maybe their business is not an essential business and maybe it may not survive or thrive as much. And so they were thinking of different ways and pivoting and testing in social media space, and people were shaming them. And I just decided to write like a quick guide, you know, and it sounds like you were the co-author because I put the exact same things in it, you know, communication, assess your company, you know what I mean? Pivot, look at other opportunities where you can. So I just want to encourage everyone out there that, you know, these times, they're very interesting times, but with what Dr. Chinny has said, you know, I really think you need to be introspective and really looking in. For those
and unashamed,
of you who
do these things without shame. The only person, listen, nobody can shame you if you have no shame. If you're not like, oh my God, I'm pivoting, then whatever everybody else says, it doesn't matter. Unbiased, unemotional. I say right now is a time to survive and do what you need to do. If that means doubling down on your industry, fantastic. If that means jumping out of your industry into something else, also fantastic. Survive.
Right. Absolutely. Unashamed, like unapologetic, unashamed, unafraid, you know, and that's what we have to be. We have to be strong for ourselves and for our businesses during this time. You know, I want to allow people to ask questions. And before I do quickly, I do want to also say to everyone out there that, you know, during this time, I think if you do, you're still going to be pushing your business post-COVID. I think it's very important to start putting structure into your business if you haven't already. I had 3 entrepreneurial calls today, and I just love all the brands I spoke to, because the entrepreneurs, they get it. They all have a semblance of structure, but they wanted to take it to the next level. And so we're going to be doing different things, SOPs. So you guys can check out, the link in the Store with Joycey bio for the upcoming SOP masterclass that I'm going to be having. For those of you who want to get into creating, your own SOPs, making sure you're doing what it takes to provide a procedure and systems for your company, it's literally on sale and it changes at midnight. But I just wanted to encourage you of that, while we're on this subject. And so, Chinny, somebody asked you a question. Let me just pop it up on the screen.
I can't see anything that anybody's writing. I wish I could.
Okay, can you see this pop up?
No, I see nothing. My screen hasn't changed.
Okay, so everyone else, I'll read it out loud. Christabel asked, dealing with being the minority in the room and having your opinion heard and valued, how do you deal with that?
I'll be honest, I wasn't very good at that for a long time. And I probably overcompensated by becoming overeducated. I'm not necessarily the loudest person about who I am and what I do, what my opinions are. But when I would say that my approach is typically, or has typically been in the past, before I grew some cojones, my approach in the past was just to let people, the people who knew what they were talking about, speak. And if any mistakes were made, if anything was not done properly, if there was something they forgot, then I would chime in okay, but you have to remember this. I realized that those people who seem to be so whatever, they don't necessarily know everything. And I just decided to start chiming in. Whenever I have an opinion, I literally just say it. I say it very, respectfully. But regardless of who it is, it could be the vice president of such and such country, it could be such and such company, big person. If what they say is counter to something that I know for a fact or something that I believe, then I voice my opinion. And I think that it's important to, first and foremost, know your stuff. Know your stuff, and once again, know your stuff. I talk a lot on I post a lot about just how much I read, how much I look into different things, and it's because of that. It's because I read The Economist. It's because I read the New York Times. It's because I read all of these different books, all of these different data sources, all of these different just sources of information. I feel as though I have a wealth of knowledge, and I have a fairly good opinion of a fairly good idea of what the facts are in most situations, or I can read up on it and learn more. So I think that first and foremost, in order to be able to speak up, know what you're talking about, know your stuff, do the work to know your stuff, and then stop being afraid to say anything, because what's the saying? They don't have 2 heads. I don't have 2 heads. Joycey doesn't have 2 heads. Nobody has 2 heads. You have to just believe in yourself and start doing it. So even if you're afraid of talking, just start talking. I always, and my team hates me for this, I always look at the person in the back who hasn't said anything, and I'm like, what's your opinion on this thing? Because I feel like it's also beneficial to get them into the habit of voicing their opinion. And it's also beneficial for me because I get information that may not otherwise be there. If we're all discussing some issue or something important is happening, and somebody in the back is I'm like, I want to hear it, because if you know something that
what are you saying?
I need that information to make the right decision. So just start talking, please. Start. Know your stuff, and then start.
So good. I think it's so important. You have to know your stuff, and when you know your stuff, you become more confident, right? So that's a good one as well. Another person asked this question. Let me pull it up here. Chinny, this is so random. You don't have to answer if you don't. What's a typical food diet?
It's what?
What's a typical food diet like for you? Chinny, you said we should ask legit questions. So
please,
here I am.
Go ahead. Typical food diet. Guys, I'll be honest, dude. I look like Fit Fam, but so two things happen for me, and this is why I don't like to give like fitness advice, because one, I think it would be disingenuous to give advice on a struggle that I've never necessarily had, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
If for me, I can wake up and work out maybe a couple of times and I'm back to it and I can do nothing for 2 months, that's kind of my situation. My body remembers whatever it is that I did as an athlete. So I think it'd be like false of me to say, oh, you do this 8 hours a day. That's just not true. I exercise because it makes me feel good and it's part of my discipline thing. And the same thing is true for food. There are days that I'll eat like burgers and chips all day, and there are actually days that I'll forget to eat. Today I had work. I woke up and I was doing work from like 5:30 in the morning until right before right before I did my makeup. So today I literally forgot to eat, and it was, my husband gave me like mangoes. He's like, you haven't eaten anything today, and I was like, oh, that's right. So I'm not very good at like my diet. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to eat more healthy. I'm trying to be more, better at all that stuff. But I'm not a fantastic like fitness and nutrition expert.
Thank you for being real. Because some people just come out here and say, do this, do that. But your genes. You have amazing genes. You have crazy genes, And so that's really good. Thank you for being truthful about that. Let me see what else. Okay, somebody's asking how you schedule your Instagram posts, and she showed us she uses Planoly.
I do use Planoly. I think they're better apps, but I do use Planoly. So like, for example, you guys will see this is what's happening. I think this is my most current ones. These are the ones that are coming up, just because that's how I schedule it by taking a bunch of pictures. I haven't taken pictures since I think the last week of February. I take a bunch of pictures, I put them on my thing. Maybe every now and then I'll take like a casual picture to just like, fun it up. But that's how I have structured and approached my IG. Whenever something funny or something interesting comes to mind, I type it out in my notes app, and I'm like, okay, I'll use this as a caption for a post. I might use it in like 5 days. I might use it in 2 weeks, but that's the system that's worked for me, so that on a daily basis, I really don't have to think about Instagram at all.
Yeah.
Except when I'm replying to you guys for funny comments.
It's so good. I use Planoly as well, so that's a good one. We have some more questions. Okay.
Questions.
Look, I like this question because Chinny, you posted about careers yesterday, so I like this question. It says, how do I kick off a career in data and analytics?
Ooh, that's a good one. That's a great one, and it's actually relative to the past, it's the easiest thing to do right now. What would I suggest? First and foremost, there are a number of either cheap or free resources that you can do in order to learn the language of your field. And I think one thing you can probably do that's good is first and foremost have a target job or just target position in mind, right? It could be to be an analyst in a tech firm, it could be to be whatever, but just have an idea of what it is that you would like to start with. And then start learning the language, like look at job positions and see what they require in terms of the type of coding or analytical language. Some people still like Stata or SPSS, some industries still like R, different types of regression modeling. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different stuff, but figure out which ones you need to learn. I think the most basic one, or not basic, it's difficult, but you should learn R because so many people so many industries use it. Find out what it is, find out the free resources or the cheap resources to learn it. And then you need to get onto, what is this thing? I can't remember the name of the site right now, but there's this site that you basically do like not free, but what is the word? Gig economy. Gig economy, like you just do jobs. You did different jobs.
Yeah.
You could be somebody like in India. You could be in
Fiverr?
Europe. I think no, not that one. It's more like industry specific. But just like start taking up jobs that will force you to use real world data sources to learn it even better. And over time, over likely a few months, you'll be able to upskill as much as possible, and then apply to one of those jobs that you wanted to get, and you'll likely get it.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's read this question. As entrepreneurs and leaders of multinational businesses, do you feel like it's your responsibility to be the cheerleader of your team?
Rah, rah, sis, boo, bah.
Yes.
Do I feel responsibility? No, I don't. I don't feel a responsibility to be the cheerleader of anything in particular. I think that one, it's always important to be open and honest about what is going on in your industry. For example, I did work in development, like I did work in the Federal Ministry of Health and in a lot of like different local not development agencies, but like partner groups and implementing agencies. And what you see in that industry is kind of dirty. There's a lot of fraud, there's a lot of misappropriation. There are a lot of companies that are just doing the most in terms of doing the least, but charging the most amount of money for it in order to do like funny stuff. And I don't think that you have to, this thing is so great, this thing is so wonderful, you have to be honest. So I don't find developments to be a great thing. I want to develop countries, but I don't think that the pathway of doing it through the development industry is for me. So I have a very private sector view of things. But also working in private sector in this country, I don't necessarily believe that it's easy or that I have to be a champion for it. I think, long story short, in whatever it is I take part in, I really like to be very honest and open and quite transparent about what's going on. Because I think in that way you come out to the best outcome no matter what. So I mean, I try to do my part, but my part is, for me, my part, I define it as being as truthful and upfront and, you know, sharing with people what is actually going on.
So good. I love it. I agree with you. Chinny, let's ask a question from me. Can you please give us 3 top books that have helped shape you, that have left an impact on you, that we should go and read?
That's a tough question because I read a lot. Like I read a lot. Right now, so I'll give one that's more recent, or at least that I have read more recent. It's called The Outsiders, and it was about 12. I believe it was 12 leaders, not necessarily entrepreneurs, but they were leaders of their industry, and over the course of like 20 to 30 years, they showed much higher returns in terms of like returns to shareholders than any other businesses. And they're from like various industries. Some of them you've heard of, some of them you've never heard of. But the book goes into detail about what the leaders did that was able to give them such long-term exquisite returns and just such longevity in their industries. So I think that one is fantastic. Like it even goes into keeping like your core corporate team as lean as possible and decentralizing the rest of activities, making sure that you are empowering your I would say like your local units to be able to fix as much as possible by themselves without having to come to corporate. And they juxtapose that to a lot of the corporates at the time who were having lots of like corporate expenses, but they were just blowing it on random stuff that wasn't actually adding to the bottom line. So that's one.
Okay, wait 1 second. Sorry. Instagram says we have 1 minute and 30 seconds left, and then it's going to cut us off.
Oh, no.
So people have tons of questions for you. I don't even know if one day we're going to do a part 2. I did not mean to cut you off, but what I'm going to do, I'll get the 2 other books for you, and I'll put a post on my page for top 3 recommendations for Chinny.
Okay.
I want to say thank you so much. I mean, we literally have like tons of questions left here. People love hearing from you.
I feel bad because I can't see anything. Like I really can't see anything.
I know. But this evening has been amazing, and I think by all the comments, you look great, girl. All the comments, like I really appreciate you. Thank you for being our first ever, live participant.
Thank you for having me.
Keep winning, Chinny. Keep winning. Keep soaring, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Oops.